Strap in for the world's fastest half hour. You're on the Straight Line, presented by O'Reilly Auto Parts. And brought to you by Hercules Tires and Grunt Style Apparel. Now, here's Marty Hough.
This is the Straight Line on Drag Racing. Thanks for stopping by our half hour of horsepower. Appreciate you being with us. Tanner Gray will be here to talk about his fourth win of the season, and the boy on the bubble, Scott Palmer, 10th in Top Fuel points, stops by to tell us about his countdown hopes. We're in the beans and set to launch another edition of the Straight Line. Wherever you may be, coast to coast and around the world, this is the Straight Line on Drag Racing at mrn.com, along with two-time NHRA National Event winner Blake Alexander. My name is Marty Hough. Doug Herbert will join us here in just a couple of minutes. But and Doug, obviously not in the studio. He'll be back next week. Blake Alexander joins us. Thanks for being here. Appreciate your time.
Oh, yeah. I'm always glad to help out friends here up the road. I'm here in Charlotte, so why not come up here and hang out?
And this is kind of the racing capital of the world. And so what better place for a race car driver to be than here in Charlotte?
Indeed, indeed. It's more NASCAR country than it's drag racing, but we're changing that a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. And as a matter of fact, joining us on the hotline right now is our normal partner here, Doug Herbert, who also lives here in the Charlotte area. Doug, where are you in this beautiful land of ours?
Hey there, Marty and Blake. Yep, good to talk to you guys. I'm actually up in Vermont today. We're up here visiting some friends in Vermont, and that's like the land of maple syrup. So I'm on the hunt for some really good maple syrup that I can bring home and turn you guys onto that next week.
Now, we were just talking with Blake, and I think you had the opportunity to hear it. Long ago, you came here to the Charlotte area knowing that this was kind of the hub of racing, and for a lot of different reasons. Is NASCAR and drag racing is also becoming a fixture here. Why was it what was it that brought you here to the Southeast?
Well, I'll tell you what. When I moved to Charlotte, you drove down the road. It didn't matter which road you drove down. Every other house had a race car in the driveway. So, I was like, okay, I love this place. Every other car has a race car in the driveway. This is the kind of place I want to live. So, that was really it. And there was, I was probably one of the early drag racing guys. Of course, we had Barry Setzer and Tommy Grove. I mean, there were some, old-time racers that were based in the Charlotte area. And then now, of course, we got the KB Racing Team. We got Blake. We got Gray Motorsports. Bob Gilbertson up the road. I mean, there's quite a few drag racers around the area now.
Yeah, and headed to Brainerd. Give me a really good Brainerd story.
Well, most of them, I don't know if we could stand it.
Yeah, be careful there. Be careful.
Yeah, you know what, Brainerd, it's just kind of like you're at a big party and a race breaks out. It's kind of what what happens at Brainerd. Brainerd is one of those places that needs to be on everybody's bucket list. You go there and you go in the camp and you hang out. It's a fun race. Like the people that live up in that area, they go to that race, they absolutely have a blast. They have concerts at night. They've got, all the crazy contraptions that you've seen over the years with drivers going into the pits and riding around on, and it's a fun thing. It's just a fun place to go. There's a big party atmosphere, and everybody in Brainerd has just a great time. It is, it's a fun place. It's probably, there's more campers and people having fun at Brainerd than any other track.
Yeah, it's very true. And if you stay at the racetrack, you got to be ready to go get some earplugs to go to bed, because 3 o'clock in the morning they're still going.
Oh yeah, they are, and it's come way down. In the old days, first year I raced at Brainerd in '91. The sun was going down, and I saw the National Guard going in, and I asked Mike Ritchie, Jim said, I go, Brissett, what's going on? Why they got the Army going in there? And he goes, when the sun goes down, you need to not be in there. And I think it's toned down quite a bit since then, but that tells you how wild and crazy it was back in those days.
Yeah, no question about it. And we'll have the winners from Brainerd here on the Straight Line next week, Doug, when you are here. Thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate it, and we'll talk to you here next week here in the studio.
Yep, we'll talk to you next week. Blake, congratulations on the recent success. Good luck at Indy, And I'll bring you guys back some Vermont maple syrup next week.
Excellent.
All right,
we'll be looking forward to
it.
it. Doug Herbert joining us on the Racing Electronics Hotline. Blake, we were talking before the show and talking about Brainerd. You got some really good memories, not all of them being on the track from Brainerd.
Yeah, I actually proposed to my wife out in Minnesota before the race, and
Nice.
I still have the ring now, and we're still happily together here in Charlotte. Some of the racing memories I have there aren't quite as good, but you know, when you're racing nitro, not everything is given, and sometimes they blow up, sometimes they go fast.
I'm assuming that you've made your trek through the zoo.
Oh yeah, I've lost sponsors in there in a good way and a bad way. They're having a lot of fun, and you gotta go look for them. And you're like, man, I brought you out here to make sure you had fun, but not that much fun. Let me get you out of here.
Because it can get pretty crazy. 2 wins on the season, coming into the 2018 season, knowing that it was going to be a part-time operation with Bob Vandegrift Racing. Was this what you were expecting, 2 wins? I mean, what were you expecting going into the season, and have you surpassed expectations?
I think we go into every race and we want to get to the final round, because you know if you get to the finish line first in that final round, it sounds cliche that you win, but you have to put yourself in the position to get to that money round, and things during the end of the day get a little bit hotter and a little bit more unpredictable. So we've been trying to put ourselves in that position, and after Atlanta, I think we recognized that we had the car and the team and the capabilities to do it. I don't know if I would say that 2 wins is something that I was expecting, but putting yourself in the position is something we've done, and it's not too surprising.
Yeah, and not only having a quick car, you know, when you've gone to 3 finals, you've won 2 of them, you've got a quick car, but you've got a really consistent car as well. It's important to get down the racetrack. Sometimes it's more important to back it down a little bit and get to the finish line than making those monster runs.
Yeah, I think we actually, if you go straight pure statistics, we've made it down the racetrack more percentage of time, 77% or something like that, than any car in the top field class. So that's paying dividends, and obviously we're getting top half qualifying spots, so we're not exactly, you know, the fastest car out there, but we're the quickest and most efficient race car on the property sometimes when we show up.
And working with Ron Douglas, he's the guy that's making those 77% tile runs down the racetrack. What's it like being with him? We just talked to Doug Herbert. Ron Douglas worked with Ron Douglas for many, many years, and then most recently over at John Force Racing. So a lot of experience in working with Ron Douglas, the crew chief of your car.
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic. He got Courtney's first win, or her first win, and my first win. So it's been awesome to work with him. He has changed a little bit, I think, just in the fact that he wants to go down the racetrack a lot. He also wants to go fast, but I've seen sometimes he's a little disappointed that we just went down the track, because as a crew chief, it's against your nature just to pull it back a little bit. But it pays good dues when you do it, and you go down the racetrack.
Yeah, no question about that. As promised, we will talk with Tanner Gray and also Scott Palmer. We'll talk a little bit of Top Fuel, as we have a Top Fuel guy here, and so we'll talk a little bit of both ends of the racetrack, Pro Stock and Top Fuel. We will start with the winner of the Northwest Nationals, his 4th of the season. Tanner Gray will join us next.
Defend your vehicle from harmful elements and restore shine with Armor All Original Protectant. For a limited time, O'Reilly Auto Parts has a great deal on a 16-ounce bottle of Armor All Protectant for $4.99. Renew, revitalize, and protect your vehicle with Armor All Protectant. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
MRN.com. Original online audio, video, and digital content. Need the latest information on each week's races? Check out the MRN.com Race Center. Need to find your local radio station for MRN original programs and Camping World Truck, Xfinity, and Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series races? Go to Stations on MRN.com. All the latest NASCAR news and opinion pieces, race schedules, driver standings, and archives of MRN programs, MRN race broadcasts, and so much more. MRN.com.
calling all admirers of the King.
For Richard Petty, the STP Pontiac.
We have the place for you. Celebrate the life and career of NASCAR's all-time win leader, Richard Petty.
The hat came about in the late 70s.
From the legend behind the King's famous crown to thrills and spills that the Hall of Famer had over the years.
Petty is slamming into the wall.
It's Richard Petty's Road to Royalty, and it's available for free to download on iTunes and MRN.com right now.
It's The Straight Line, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Now, once again, here's Marty Hough.
Appreciate you being here on MRN.com this week. It is The Straight Line, along with Blake Alexander. I am Marty Hough, and joining us on the Racing Electronics Hotline right now is the driver of the Gray Motorsports Chevy Camaro Pro Stock, Tanner Gray, winner of the Northwest Nationals, joins us right now. Tanner, thanks so much for being here. We really appreciate it. Congratulations on the win.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on, and thank you.
Fourth win this season, Gainesville, Richmond, Norwalk, and now Seattle. Heading into the season, were you thinking, maybe something close to last year, 5 wins last year? What were your expectations going into the season?
As a driver, you always want to do better than you did the year previous or the previous year before. So, winning more races hasn't really been the focus. It's just been, doing good in those last 6 races there for the countdown has really been the main focus of this year. Last year we didn't really know what to expect with me being new to it and all, and, just kind of took what it gave us and ran with it, and, came up a little bit short there in the countdown. So we got a little bit more experience, with what we need to do, and we're going to try to put that to use this year.
TG, how you doing, man? Blake Alexander.
Good, man. How you doing?
Doing well. So I got a quick question. You're about 2 rounds out of first. You're gonna have that made up by Indy, right?
I'm gonna try to. It's gonna be tough for sure, but Greg and them are running really good, so I hope we can. Every spot counts, as you know. But that'll be a tough one to make up.
Yeah, so I remember seeing you after Phoenix, and the year just didn't really get off exactly how you wanted it to. And what's changed since then? Because you've been on a tear lately. You're driving well. The car's running better. Obviously, it probably was a lot of work, but talk to us about that.
Yeah, we really just went out and tested a lot. I mean, we were testing a lot before Pomona and even leading up to Phoenix. But, just kind of was able to grind it out and, just kept going and testing. And I was, trying to keep my confidence up as a driver because, drag racing's tough to keep confidence if you're not doing well just because, you don't get much seat time. So, it's tough to let the last one go, as you know. But, as far as the car changing, I mean, some small things here and there that I really can't tell you about, but
you don't want to air it out. That's fine.
Yeah, the KB guys are tuning in right now.
Exactly, but no, I mean, not a whole lot's changed. It's just been minor things, and we've just started making better calls on the race car. I think it just took us, a little bit to get used to how they were prepping the track and these new tires that they put us on last year have still been kind of throwing some curveballs. So I think it just took that little extra bit to go out and test and to make that little bit of an extra effort and figure it out.
Right on.
So let's talk about that final round at Seattle, which was kind of interesting. A bit of a staging duel. I wouldn't call it a burn down, but you sat there for a while and kind of looked at each other, and then Kramer goes red, and you get all sorts of squirrely in the lane. Talk about that sequence of about 30 to 45 seconds in there, waiting at the line, and then finally staging. And then once you let the clutch pedal out, it wasn't exactly what you were thinking. I'm just guessing.
Yeah, no, we definitely got lucky there that round. But going up there, I'd been watching Derek since Sonoma, and he'd pretty much staged first or second every run. So I kind of just took a mental note of that, and then when I got the chance to race him there in Seattle, I just was going to try to make him stage first, and hopefully that was going to throw him off, because I felt like in Seattle everybody was pretty close to about the same on the tree. The rollout seemed to be a little bit loose, so everybody was kind of around the same area, so it was going to be tough to leave on anybody. And he had a little bit of a faster car. I think he had about 100th on us. So I was just trying anything that we could do to maybe get some kind of advantage. And I don't know if that's what caused him to go red, but I think it definitely worked out for us. And then when we swapped feet, the car stood up, and we've been doing pretty big wheelies all day. And for whatever reason, that was our first run in the right lane there. And it just drove left, and I didn't realize he had red lit, so I just kept pulling gears and trying to.
Yeah, you're looking at the sky. How could you tell?
Yeah, I was kind of watching the center line, out the left side window, and then trying to make sure I wasn't doing anything stupid, and ended up working out for us. But that was kind of the joke when we got back, because when you're driving, you're not thinking about it. But if I would have crossed the center line or done something, or hit the wall, or done something like that, I would have lost the race. So, like I said, it was kind of a lucky round for all of us, and just worked out in our favor.
So, whether it be a staging duel, little confrontation at the racetrack, or you're racing a legend, you always seem to be on your game. You always seem to, be ready to go. What's your secret sauce? Are you listening to Davey and your dad, or is it just naturally happening? What's the deal? How are you always on your game? Are you telling yourself something to be ready?
Oh man, I don't feel like I'm always on my game. I feel like there's times that I could be better, but no, Dave and my dad have definitely helped me out a lot. Especially because I'm kind of new to the whole drag racing deal. So, I didn't really have any bad habits when I got in. So I had the best teachers around me to teach me, what to do. So they've helped a lot. And then, as far as, mentally, I kind of race with, that I don't care attitude. So,
understood.
I just go up there and do my thing. And, I learned, early on in my first year that, the more you worry about the cars in the other lane, the worse you're going to do. So if you can go up there and just race yourself and try to be the best version of yourself that you can be, then you're probably going to be a lot better off. So, that's mainly what I try to focus on. It doesn't always work out for me, and, sometimes I get, caught off guard, distracted, but, that's kind of my main goal is, try to just focus in on what I got to do and, execute it.
Yeah.
So beat Jason Line in the second round. I love the opportunity when the ladders come out and you're going to race Jason Line at some particular point during the event, because the smack talk starts at the top end. Are you particularly looking forward to Jason Line, just so you can talk a little in his ear, and because he talks it back, he may be one of the best pure smack talkers down in the pit. So what's that like when you know you got to race Jason Line and you're probably trying to get in his ear?
Yeah, I have a blast getting to race Jason. He's actually one of my really good friends, and we talk a lot throughout the week, whether we're racing or not. So I have a lot of fun racing him, and I always give him a hard time because as everybody knows, Jason struggles somewhat on the tree too, but it seems like every time we race each other, we're both right there with each other, whether it's good or bad. So it always makes for a good race when we get to go up there against each other. And as far as the talking goes, he came to me. Well, I came to him in 2014 or 15, I think it was, and he was racing my teammate Drew in the final, and Drew was about to be the first guy to win his first race in Pro Stock. And I went to Jason, and I was like, look, man, you need to make sure you beat him. Well, Jason beat him. Sure enough, my first race, second round, I have to race Jason, and Jason ends up beating me. And so, Jason, throws around the joke that, no matter how many times I beat him or whatnot, I was the first person to lose to him. So it's a lot of fun, though.
So I'll ask the both of you, since you shared the stage in Victory Lane at Norwalk. When you're on that stage, especially that was your first win, Blake, the drivers are kind of talking to each other. What are you talking about? Blake, I'll start with you first.
Everyone was congratulating me. I know that. The first one kind of, I think, in the fraternity of drivers, everyone kind of knows what it's like to break through. Obviously, Tanner's came early, and I'm not exactly old. I'm a little older than him, but it's all it's just a really fun time, and I think everyone's congratulatory, and also it's finally a time to decompress, and you can joke around about the things that went bad, and celebrate the things that went well. But every once in a while, you have to get lucky on the way to race day or a race win, and I think that's what we're talking about.
And Tanner, what is that like sharing the moment with especially with the guy that won his first race there on Victory Stage at Norwalk?
Yeah, I mean it was really cool to be able to see Blake do that. He definitely had a tougher road to success than I had. He's not always been in the greatest of equipment, and he finally got the opportunity to be in some pretty good equipment this year, and I think it's showing. I mean, he's won, I think, 2 races now out of the 6 that he's gone to, or something crazy like that. So, he's definitely shown him, that he can do it, and it's cool to see a guy that works as hard as he does be able to show up and do that, especially get the opportunity to get in good equipment and to go out there and just show everybody what he can do. So, I think we talked a little bit about that and just was able to congratulate him, but the thing that sucked for him is, he won his first race, but they didn't have like a full winner circle. So I felt bad for him because, my first race we were at Vegas and they did the whole, big stage. And for whatever reason, I think they were running behind on Sportsman and he didn't get to go up and do the big stage or whatever.
Yeah, you drove me back on a broken golf cart.
Yeah, I know. I was like, man, that kind of sucks for that to be your first race win. But I was like, hey, I guess at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, we'll forget about it, and I'll just remember Sonoma. There's a big stage there, so.
Yeah, Sonoma's a really cool place to win. That's probably one of my more memorable wins, just with the champagne bottles and the cup they give you and stuff like that. It's a really cool place to win. So that definitely made up for it.
Right on.
Tanner, thanks so much for your time. We really appreciate it. Congratulations on the win of Seattle, and good luck this weekend in Brainerd.
I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Tanner Gray, driver of the Gray Motorsports Chevy Camaro Pro Stock, and looking for win number 5 this weekend in Brainerd. And when we return, we'll pick up more of the show coming up after this.
Whatever you drive, wherever you go, Hercules Tires will get you there. Whether you're running on dirt or running a job, our dependable, high-quality tires are the perfect fit for your needs. For unmatched value, selection, and warranty with industry-leading road hazard protection, there's only one choice: Hercules Tires. To learn more, visit HerculesTire.com or call 800-677-9535. Hercules Tires, ride on our strength.
If it's time to replace your vehicle's battery, stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts and take advantage of our exclusive Do It Right rebate. For a limited time, purchase a Superstart Premium, Extreme, or Platinum battery and get up to a $15 O'Reilly gift card by mail. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better prices every day. Limit supply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
When the smoke settles, the entertainment never stops.
It's all a family sport.
On race weekends, your favorite NASCAR personality is an everyday superhero.
Brad Keselowski will win.
But when they leave the racetrack, they're just like everyone else.
We just have to find the value package that connects a new generation of fans.
I'm Susie Armstrong. Join me on a daily journey as we discuss the hot topics and engaging personalities of NASCAR Nation. Ned Jarrett's World of Racing, weekdays on the Motor Racing Network.
Welcome back to The Straight Line, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Here's more with Marty Hough.
Big thanks to Tanner Gray for joining us on MRN.com in The Straight Line. Blake Alexander sitting in the seat this week for Doug Herbert. Doug will be back next week. Tanner Gray coming from a long line of drag racers. Bob Vandergriff also coming from a long line of drag racers. That's been in his blood. You're, of course, driving for Bob Vandergriff Racing. What's it like been driving for him, and how much do you get to talk to him about the driving, and what you're doing on the track?
Yeah, he kind of laissez-faire, keeps his hands off of the driving part of it, and then when I ask for instruction, he provides it. There's things that he sees, night runs when the car is going fast and something happens where it gets out of the groove, he'll let me know, but it's not like he's always telling me exactly what should be happening, and he understands it's difficult to do a perfect job every time, so it's kind of nice sometimes when you drive for people that don't really understand it, they'll be getting on you about stuff, and it's really hard to just, pick at every little detail of driving.
Yeah. You started in funny cars, started with in Paul Smith Funny Car, and now over driving dragsters. The business side of things for you has been a very important one. It's how you've been able to really kind of get your career started. What is it about the business side, the off-track stuff, that really interests you?
So, to trace back, when I talk to Bob a lot, we're honestly talking about the business aspects of racing. We don't really ever get into the nuts and bolts of it, and we'll talk equipment every now and then, but most of the time I just understand that that's handled, and Ron Douglas is on it. So, running the funny car, obviously, if you want to go down to that business part of it, it was a little bit more expensive to maintain a body, and you'd stay there till 3 o'clock in the morning if you burn it, or I'd be putting wraps on it all the time. So it's one of the things that stuck out of my mind. I wanted to change that, and Bob and I had talked forever. He knew that I kind of had the knack for finding the money to do this and creating the partnerships, and he's furthered my education, just teaching me that there's an angle to leverage on each side of motorsports, whether it be with the sponsors or with customers, and we are constantly always working on that.
Yeah, and so how did Pronto Auto Parts become a part of your business, or a part of your car and the business of drag racing?
Well, I lost one of my sponsors at the end of 2013, and I just did some research and thought of companies that would potentially benefit from what I was doing before, which is running customer-centric promotions and bringing people out to the racetrack while running an auto parts promotion, and they were a company that fit the bill. So I sought out the president of the company, Bill Maggs, and we was kind of introduced to him and Robert Roos, some of the executives there, by previous sponsors I had from Tenneco and Exide that did business with them. And it kind of just slowly started to grow, and obviously this year it's kind of popped and things are going really well. Customers are really happy, and we're going to keep the pedal to the metal.
Now, last time we talked to you here, you were a guest on the phone, and we were surprised to hear that you weren't going to be able to go to Seattle, go to Brainerd, and possibly try to make the countdown and trying to keep that business, the business plan as you've kept it at the beginning of the year. How difficult has that been for you to not be able to get to the racetrack when you know you've got a really good race car?
Yeah, I guess this year it's a little bit more difficult. I don't really know any better, to be honest with you, though, because I've never really run a full schedule. I would love to, and I'm constantly working on it, and have meetings coming up where I'm going to be flying all over the country trying to connect the dots on that. But constantly working on it, but I don't really let it bother me that much. I'm very blessed to do what I do and do it in the manner I do, and always kind of just try to take a look around and enjoy it.
For those of us that have never gone 300 miles an hour and never will, you've been in a funny car and now you're running a dragster. Tell us the differences between driving a funny car, hitting the loud pedal on a funny car, and on a dragster.
Well, the funny car, obviously, you come out of it looking like a chimney sweep. If it catches on fire, you lose your eyebrows. But so there's simple little things like that. Yeah. The dragster, it covers ground at such an immense pace that it took me a little bit of time to get used to that, because you also have peripheral vision with the dragster, and it allows you to really know how fast you're going, which sometimes isn't a good thing when you're going 330 miles an hour. And I think I've run 11 or 12 races in a top fuel car now, and I'm getting used to it. I'd made over 100 runs in funny car, and I really think once you get to that 100 run mark, you're kind of just comfortable in it, where it's like riding a bike. Obviously the reaction time aspect of drag racing is difficult to always be on your game, but trying to dial that in all the time.
When we return, we'll talk. We'll keep Blake Alexander here, and we'll keep our conversation going here on MRN. It is The Straight Line, and more coming up after this.
Things happen fast in racing, and if you don't know where to look, you can miss it all. With Legend from Racing Electronics, you'll never miss another moment. Legend gives you live fan vision video, in-car cameras, and stats at premier National Series events, and the next generation race scanner for unfiltered driver and crew audio at any motorsports event nationwide. Race fans have never been closer to the action. Welcome to the future of the fan experience. Learn more by visiting racingelectronics.com.
If your AC is blowing hot air, let O'Reilly Auto Parts help bring back the cool this summer. While you may need to eventually service your AC unit, get immediate relief with Interdynamics Arctic Freeze R134A refrigerant with leak sealer for $32.99. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Limit supply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
It's Rip the Fence. Join two former voices of USAC, Dylan Welch and Tyler Burnett, on a ride like no other.
I can't really tell much stories because I don't want to get anybody in too much trouble.
As the two chat with the faces of traditional open-wheel racing.
I was 4 wheels in the fluff and hot laps, and my dad actually after hot laps says, if you do that again, we're parking it.
Catch up on prior episodes and get ready for the ride with Rip the Fence. Available for free to download on iTunes, SoundCloud, and the podcast app, or available on MRN.com.
You're listening to The Straight Line, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Now, back to Marty Hough.
Thanks for joining us here on MRN.com and The Straight Line this week. And all of our guests come via the Racing Electronics hotline. And for 30 years, Racing Electronics has been the #1 choice for racing scanners, headphones, and the popular FanVision handheld unit. Check out all of our new great products at racingelectronics.com. And it is that part of the program we like to call Red Light, Green Light, and it is brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. And this week is a green light because we're headed to Brainerd, and there's nothing more green than Brainerd. When you go up to Minnesota, Blake, I mean, you look around, fans may not know that have never been to Brainerd. It's kind of out there, out in the middle of nowhere, and it's very remote, and there's a lot of green out there.
Yeah, there's lots of trees, and it's actually comes into tuning the race cars out there because there are so many trees. So you're obviously right about that, and I know it's a little bit of a challenge, but there's also been world record times there. Yeah,
no question. So headed to Brainerd is always a good thing, and it's always a good time, as Doug has pointed out, and also Blake. Let's talk a little bit about the countdown. We're 2 races out. Indy's coming up, and that's 1.5 points. Brainerd, you really got to get something done if you're one of those bubble teams. If you're Mike Salinas, if you're Scott Palmer, if you're anybody from Coletta, basically. So this is really go time for a lot of teams on the bubble.
Yeah, I mean, you got Wilkie, Cruz, and Lindbergh on the outside looking in funny car. I think that's pretty much the toughest class in drag racing, and it's just a lot of great teams. Someone's going to get left out of it that's won a championship before, has come close. And I think that the front runners of the pack, obviously, is Courtney, Caps, and Height, but lurking behind them is Hagen and other people who are going to, be players in the countdown, and he always will steal around on the tree and make some magic happen. And, it's kind of funny when you look at the funny car class that there's some people sleeping in there that are really good.
Oh, sure.
And Top Fuel, it's, just like last year, it can kind of be anecdotal that Torrance had such a great season, a really big lead, but someone can come from behind that you weren't necessarily booking to be the winner, and, anything can happen.
Brittany Force is a great example of that, and she was 6th going into the playoffs last year. Not on everybody's radar screen, but Alan Johnson had that just the right tune-up and got a little break there with Steve Torrance, obviously, in the wreck at Dallas. But you're right. anything from about 8th to 9th in that 5 to 9 area. I mean, that's a real toss-up.
Right, yeah, we had Tanner on the show. He actually, I think, won the first race in the countdown last year, and then things didn't end up playing out.
Right.
But, it's obviously just a shorter period of racing, so your mistakes are magnified and your triumphs are magnified, and you definitely want to be on the side of triumph rather than mistake.
Yeah, and this is the guy that's been on the side of triumph twice this year. 3 finals this year. Blake Alexander, thanks so much for joining us this week, and we'd love to have you back anytime.
Yes, sir. I'm glad to come up here and help out.
Driver of the Pronto Auto Parts Top Fuel Dragster for Bob Vandergriff Racing, Blake Alexander joining us here live at MRN.com and the Straight Line. So for everybody involved, thanks for being here. My name is Marty Hough, and we will talk to you next week here on the Straight Line.